Hey, I'm Paula. This is how to make dinner. We're making turkey spinach meatballs with brothy tortellini, and we're also going to put some meatballs in the oven, and I'm going to tell you about a bunch of different ways to eat meatballs, and it's going to be great. So let's get going. Got a noisy cameraman over there. Don't mind him. We'll be okay. Where's my beer? Oh, lovely. There's no way to kick off a Saturday night than with a nice jar of beer. Don't you think? It's good. Shout out to Vancouver Island Brewery for some nice Dominion dark lager. I'm enjoying it a lot. Okay, so turkey and spinach meatballs. I'm gonna make a pretty big batch here. We've got like enough to make about 24 pretty good sized meatballs. So I would recommend putting half of them in some tomato sauce, putting them in the freezer, and then using the rest just kind of throughout the week for dinner, lunch, whatever. So I've got 700 grams of ground meat here. You can use 100% turkey breast, you can use whatever you want really, but I have a combination of turkey breast, white meat, and ground turkey thigh, as well as some ground pork. I like to put pork in meatballs and any kind of like meat saucy, like kind of bolognese thing, because it's cheap and it has really good flavor. So it kind of bulks up everything. Ground turkey is really expensive. So if you can have like part turkey, part pork, that's good. So this is about 2 parts turkey, 1 part pork altogether. So to equal 700 grams. And then into that, I have 1 pack of frozen chopped spinach that I've defrosted and squeezed the water out for the most part. I've got a little bit more water here to squeeze out. I love buying chopped spinach frozen because it's just easy, you know? And I feel like it works out to being pretty much the same price, if not a bit cheaper than buying fresh spinach, because you get a block of cooked, done. Like this much spinach would take you like probably 5 bunches or so. And it costs about $2.50 from the grocery store. So I got the meat, I got the spinach. I'm gonna put the zest and juice of 1 lemon in for no other reason than lemon's just so good. I'm obsessed with it. And I put I'm putting rosemary in this too, dried rosemary. And lemon and rosemary together, it's kind of that like roast chicken, warming kind of, I don't know, brothy Italian vibe. I just love it. And it's January right now, and that's just the flavors that I'm after. So lemon's in, I'm gonna juice it. Not even gonna bother with my squeezer anymore because it's so awkward because it doesn't really fit the lemons. They're just too big. So that goes in. And what's next? I've got garlic, quite a bit, like 5 or 6 cloves of garlic. Now, you can totally use garlic powder here if you want. I use garlic powder and onion powder quite a bit, especially during the week. There's nothing wrong with it, you know, like it's a different thing than fresh. Like I just think that to compare it is wrong. It's like a way to get flavor into your food. Yes, it's a different flavor, but it's still really good. Like onion powder and garlic powder are what make ranch dressing taste so good. They're delicious, and it's so easy. In this case, I'm using fresh garlic because we bought one of those mesh bags that has like a 2-year supply of garlic in it, and I'm trying desperately to use it up. And it's starting to get sprouty, but I'm just using it as fast as I can. So get rid of all that. And then, I don't know if you know, but garlic actually tastes way different depending on how finely you chop it. So if you're like a garlic press kind of person, your garlic tastes much different than a garlic chopper kind of person. It kind of squeezes out all the essential compounds out of all of the little garlic cells. And it just totally changes the flavor. Actually, Serious Eats did a really in-depth article about garlic and different ways of chopping it and how it affects the flavor. And it was quite a good article. I enjoyed it a lot. So I'm chopping. And if I stop here, it'll be pretty mild flavor. If I keep going and really mash it with salt and get it into a fine paste, it'll be much more kind of strong. Maybe I'll mash it a bit. Actually, no, I don't have time for that. We don't have time for that, do we? Okay, chop, chop, that's in. And then, what else? We've got 2 eggs. So I actually find the trick to meatballs is kind of the same as the trick to meatloaf, which is don't use that much meat, to be honest. The best meatballs are ones that have a lot of other stuff in them, like eggs and breadcrumbs. Because meat, when it cooks, just gets really tough and it turns into just a hard, tough kind of ball. But if you put, a lot of kind of filler in it, they're really soft and really nice. I've got this dried rosemary. My friend dried this in a paper bag, which I've realized is the best way to dry herbs because it really keeps all the flavor. So just a couple pinches. Rosemary's strong. We don't want to go crazy. We got about 10 cracks of black pepper. I love pepper. That was 11. I don't know if you were counting, but... And then we've got a teaspoon of onion powder. So this is where I just didn't feel like chopping onions. So in it goes. And that's just going to pack a punch, which is what I want. And then kind of a heaped-ish teaspoon or so of salt. And my oats, which are behind me. So you can use breadcrumbs, of course. That's pretty standard. I love using quick oats because they're ground pretty fine. If you don't have quick oats, you just have the big, large flake ones. You can grind them up in a food processor a bit before you add them in. This is, I used to work in a kitchen in Scotland and I made a lot of haggis. And oats are the kind of cereal that is used in haggis to bind it all together. And so maybe this is a little bit of that influence. Love haggis, by the way. Nothing is better on a hungover morning than haggis and egg on a white fluffy roll with ketchup or HP sauce. So good. Okay, I'm just checking I have everything. Yep, that's it. So now I'm gonna just go in and mix by hand, and I put a glove on because I didn't want to waste precious video time washing my hand after. Now at this point, once it's mixed, if you have 5 minutes or 10 minutes even to just let the mixture sit, it really helps a lot because the oats have a chance to absorb some of the liquid or some of the moisture, I guess, from the meat and the egg and the spinach. It just helps kind of bring it all together. So if I had 5 minutes right now, I would just walk away. You don't need to put it in the fridge. It's only 5 minutes, but just walk away, go do something else. But I don't have that kind of time, so we're just gonna keep going. So I mix it really well. Get all those bits of flavor in to every single meatball. All right. That's good. So I'm just gonna clear this stuff up a bit. So now that we have this meatball mixture, we have a couple of options. I'm gonna do this in 2 different ways. I'm gonna do both baked meatballs, like in the oven, and I'm also gonna poach some in some broth. And by broth, I mean water with roast turkey flavored Better Than bouillon. It's that, the little expensive jars of store-bought stock that you can get. Obviously, I'm not sponsored by them. I just think that they're better than any other store-bought stock that you can get. It actually tastes like meat. It actually is meat. It's like cooked down the number 1 ingredient is turkey juice. So I'm a big fan. And then we're just gonna get going on making these balls. So I like to use a scoop. You might remember this scoop from last week's episode, the tahini cookie episode. Scoops are the best. They just make everything so fast. And everything's the same size. And they're already pretty much a meatball. I mean, you could just chuck it in the oven like that if you wanted. I'm gonna make them a bit more round. But like, that's the fastest meatball you can possibly get, I think. Move this aside for a minute. And then just gonna grease them up with a little bit of olive oil drizzled over. And then just quickly, I mean, I'm not even barely doing anything. I'm just kind of using the oil that I just drizzled, forming them into balls. These are big. This is like 2 or 3 per person would probably be enough if you're not too greedy. I'd probably have 3. So they're just gonna go in the oven. I've got it preheated to 425, and they'll take about 20 minutes if you're cooking them through. If you're gonna cook them, put them into some tomato sauce, you could do about 10 minutes in the oven and then switch them to the tomato sauce and then finish them cooking in there. But I'm gonna do 20 minutes in this oven. Timer. 20 minutes there. And then I've got my broth, which is being hidden by all these items. And so the broth, you want it to be not boiling, you want it to just be kind of lightly simmering, otherwise the meatballs will just cook too quickly, and you just want them to kind of poach, you don't want them to boil. So we bring back the meat, and same thing, just roll them up. You don't actually, a lot of people pack meat really tightly, and you don't really want that. That's another thing that contributes to the really tough finished product. So just a lightly packed is what you want. Just enough so they don't fall apart. We're gonna do about 15 minutes altogether on the poached. But I'm gonna come back halfway through and add a few other things to the broth to make it a complete dinner experience. So in about 8 minutes, we'll be back to show you what happens next. You won't believe it. Oh yeah, put the lid on when you're poaching these guys, because that way, even if they're not totally submerged, they'll still kind of steam on the tops. Hot tip. Okay, we're back. So these guys have been simmering for, I'm gonna say about 8 minutes. So I'm gonna just make this kind of a one-pot wonder here, because this is just a quick weeknight dinner. I have this store-bought tortellini, and I think some tortellini and some big old meatballs and some broth is going to be a perfect dinner. So I'm just going to drop those in. How many am I going to do? However many you want per person, basically. Just chuck them in. And those are going to take about another 6 to 8 minutes. So by the time they're done, the meatballs will be done. And if you want to throw anything else in there, like more veggies, I mean, we've got all that spinach in there, which to me, and you know, it counts. Any other veggies on top of that is just gravy. But frozen peas, sliced up Brussels sprouts, more greens of any kind, you can just put it in now. Broccoli, that'd be great actually. And then just wait another like 6 minutes or so till they're done. While we're waiting for these too, by the way, if you like this show, I would love it if you would subscribe, because it helps me out a lot, and it tells me that you're enjoying it and that I should keep doing it. And if you ding the little bell, you'll get a notification when I make a new episode, which is every Wednesday. I try and get them out early in the morning on Wednesdays. The next 3 episodes are going to be quick, easy weeknight dinners. And then we'll go from there. So we've got 4 more minutes left on the timer for these ones that are baking in the oven. I just thought I'd take them out and give them a little flip, because they're getting pretty brown on the one side, which is totally fine. So at this point, with a few minutes left, I would happily just take them out and put them into some sauce if you have a jar of sauce or a favorite tomato sauce recipe. Or if you want to go super old school, which I have no beef with whatsoever, cream of mushroom soup, you guys. Bust out a can of cream of mushroom soup, chuck these in there, and some butter, like buttered egg noodles. There's like zero problem with that. I love that stuff. That is what my mom would make, and it's great. So these are going back in for a few more minutes till they're done. So what I'm basically trying to do here is give you a foundation for dinner. So once you have these meatballs, you can go in so many different directions. You can get them in the tomato sauce, put them on some polenta or any kind of other grain, or any noodles, some pasta, spaghetti, classic, whatever. You can cook them in the broth, which is really nice. You can do them in the mushroom soup. There's so many things you can do. So start with something like this and then take it in whatever direction you want. This is done, so I'm going to turn it off. And let's get it into the bowl. Need a spoon. So they hold together really nicely, but they're soft. You can see that they're not tough at all. So I'm going to put 3 of them in the bowl. Some of these tortellinis. And the good thing about this broth is because we started with the store-bought, the high quality store-bought broth, but then we cooked the meatballs in it. They got all that flavor from the meat now too, and all the stuff that we put in the meatballs, which is great. So that's pretty good. It's kind of like, it's a soup essentially. I'm going to cut into this and see. Oh yeah, that's nice. So good. Finish it off maybe with some chopped tomatoes, because this is what I had. Again, anything you want really, any other veggie. And some parm. And that's dinner. Oh, I didn't take the other ones out. And here are the ones that were in the oven. And they're just ready to go for whatever. Make a meatball sandwich. That's another thing I didn't talk about. This with some crusty bread, or that on a nice sub bun with some sauce and a bit of cheese. You're golden. And it makes such a good takeaway lunch for the next day. Meatballs make the best leftovers ever. I'm not going to put these on a plate. They're just going to be like that. Okay, so this has been How to Make Dinner. Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope you'll come back next Wednesday, where we'll make another quick weeknight dinner. And I look forward to seeing you then. Thanks. It's really good. Turkey meatballs, you guys. They just kind of melt. They're like fluffy clouds. Fluffy turkey spinach clouds. This is all I want on a weeknight for dinner. This is it. I'm happy. This is all I want.